So I was wondering, does it make any sense to promote your Kickstarter at a live event? Greetings everyone, welcome to the Underground Lair where we bring our creations to life. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. I'm a professional illustrator, designer, and mad creator. I also create comics. In fact, I have a Kickstarter going on right now for my comic book, Young and the Dead. This is the current issue, but all 5 issues are available. It is a kids versus zombie story. It's like Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. So if you're a fan of movies like The Goonies, E.T., Monster Squad, Explore, all those great action adventure films starring kids in the 1980s, or more recently, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, then you will love this. Definitely check it out. All you have to do is go to, there's a link in the description, but you can also go to youngandthedead.com. It'll take you right to the Kickstarter, and there's tons of cool stuff. I've got these really cool variant covers. My friend Joshua Kimball did this cover here, this cover by my other good friend Corey Kerr, and then another friend of most of these are good friends of mine. This is Gary Hodges' cover, and these are all for the different issues. Each one has a variant cover issue. Federica Marchetti, an artist I've been working with that I'm just really enjoy her work, did this one, and then of course Russ Leach did the cover for the most recent issues. So, you know, if you have already backed the project and you haven't picked up any of those, you can add those on to your pledge. But yeah, this is the last week of the campaign, so if you're thinking about jumping on it, definitely do so, because time is running out on this thing. And because time is running out, I wanted to do some extra promotion. So I was thinking to myself, you know, what have I done and what can I do? And one of the things was like, well, and I've always wondered this, can you successfully promote your Kickstarter at a live event like a convention or a comic book signing? So I decided, you know, to set up a comic book signing at my local comic book store and try to pitch the Kickstarter. And I'm going to let you know sort of about the results and some of the tactics and ideas that I put forth and whether those were successful or not. And of course, your results may vary if you're thinking about doing this, but if you're running a Kickstarter, any way you can get the word out is great. But sometimes if there's not like a link attached to that, it can be difficult to get people to go to your Kickstarter. So let's talk about some of those ideas. And also I want to share some of the artwork and some of the sketch covers and things that I did at this event at my local comic book store. So let's get into that. All right, so I had this kind of crazy experiment that I wanted to try out to promote the new Kickstarter at my local comic book store. Like I said, I set up a signing, and the idea was that, okay, so with the Kickstarter, one of the rewards that I'm offering are these sketch covers, these blank sketch covers, as you can see I'm working on right now. And those are sort of at the higher tier. They're like starting at the $100 tier and the $150 tier. And it's got the sketch cover, but it also has it has the books, and it has some extras and a bunch of other stuff. So I was thinking, since I normally charge, I usually charge at least $100 to do a sketch cover. And I was thinking, since that first tier starts at there, you get the sketch cover and all this other stuff. So maybe I can entice people at the signing, say, oh, you want to get a sketch? Back the Kickstarter, I will give you the sketch right now. And you will, all you have to do is back it. And I made sure to set up a QR code, because the one big hurdle you have anytime you are trying to promote something at a live event is if you don't have that link. I mean, when people are looking at stuff online, you can send them a link. It's so easy to click on. You'd be surprised how many people would just forego that whole process of just typing in a URL or something. You've got to make it super simple for people. And even taking your phone out and taking a picture of the QR code is kind of a lot to ask, believe it or not. But anyway, so I had the QR code set up. I explained it. If you back at this level, you can back at $100. I can either charge you $100 for the sketch, or you can back at $100. I'll give you the sketch right now, and then once the Kickstarter is complete and I fulfill it, you'll get the rest of the stuff. So I thought that was kind of a unique way. Now, there is a major drawback to this idea, and it was something I was kind of just willing to take a risk on, but because of this, I don't know if I would necessarily recommend this. On Kickstarter is an all or nothing platform. So if you set out to raise $3,000 and you raise $2,500, you get nothing. Okay, so and because of that, people that back the projects, they don't get, their credit card doesn't get billed till the end, and they have the opportunity to back out at any time. So there is a possibility that somebody could say, "Oh, I'll back it." They get their sketch, and then they cancel their pledge. So that's a major thing. So that's why I wouldn't necessarily recommend this tactic. However, I mean, there are other ways. Like if you're doing, say, like an Indiegogo, or I think there's another platform called Crowdfunder, Fund R, like with the R, no E. I think those either they're automatically like this, or you could set them up to where it bills people right away. So if you're doing something like that on another platform, then this may work out. Theoretically, they can't back out, although I would imagine anyone could cancel a pledge and get a refund if they just decided or whatever, but you could probably fight it saying, "Oh, I already gave this person the sketch." However, one of the reasons why I did that, most of the patrons that come into the comic store owner knows them and stuff like that, so I wasn't too worried about it, so I decided just to take the risk. And again, this is kind of an experiment. So I did this, and the results were, well, first of all, there's a number of other factors. I think you might be able to make this work. It didn't necessarily work for me. For one reason, the traffic that day wasn't a lot of people. I was constantly there busy doing drawings, but what happened, and this is good for the people that back my Kickstarter, but I had people that had already backed the Kickstarter that were local that came in and they got their sketch, so they had already backed. So I wasn't able to really pull in any new people at those higher tiers to back the project and get the sketches. I had other people that came in that wanted sketches, but it's weird. I think the people that either shop at comic book stores and like to purchase their comic that way may not be the same audience as the people who purchase stuff on Kickstarter, because I had people that I'll just get the sketch. Then we're going to back it and get the sketch and all the extras. They just backed it. They just paid whatever $100. They got the sketch, and that's all they wanted. So it's a little different. And maybe I wasn't clear enough, because what I'm doing, I kind of stated on the Kickstarter that what I'm doing is like 80s zombies. As you can see, Indiana Jones, an 80s movie. So that was one of the things somebody wanted. They wanted to keep with that theme. Other people wanted something different. They didn't necessarily want the sketch on that particular cover. Like they came in with like a Spider-Man comic or something, and they wanted it on there. And I should have just said, yeah, I can, if you back it, I'll do it on the Spider-Man cover. But that's kind of what they wanted, so they didn't necessarily back the project. So I could have been more clear, so that was probably, because it doesn't make a difference to me whether I draw on a Spider-Man cover or I draw my Young and the Dead cover, really, So that was something I should have made clear. But by and large, I was there. I was busy that day. I was doing sketches the whole day through, but I didn't really get any new backers that way. So it didn't necessarily pan out that way. But I think it's something that can work. And I think on a busier day, because I've been there, like, it's different on like Free Comic Book Day. There's just tons of people, and there's just so many sketches that people want done and stuff like that. So it was worth it for me to do the signing, because I was making money. It just wasn't necessarily going to the Kickstarter. And in the grand scheme of things, because Kickstarter does take their cut, so if they did back the Kickstarter, you're also kind of losing that just kind of straight cash money that you get for doing a sketch. So if I do a sketch for $100 and it's not going to the Kickstarter, I get to keep that whole $100, whereas Kickstarter and the credit card, they would take a small portion. But I kind of wanted to, build some, build some, just awareness of the Kickstarter, and hopefully get some people to back. Didn't necessarily work out, but it could. So anyway, that's sort of my experience with that. But I think you might want to consider, you could try stuff like this out. So anyway, I'm just going to talk about some of the other stuff while I got you here, some of the other sketches that I did. So this is a sketch I did. Somebody requested a sketch from the animated show Primal, which I hadn't seen. I had heard about, because it's Gendy Tartakovsky animation, the guy that he did that original Clone Wars before the 3D animated, the two-dimensional version. He also did Samurai Jack, and I'm trying to remember what else. He did a bunch of other stuff. Did he do Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends? And I don't know, a lot of that stuff. I was a big Samurai Jack fan. I love that stuff. I love his animation style. And he's got a huge fan following. And I wanted to check this out, and I just had never seen it, but somebody came in that was a big fan and wanted me to do this. Actually, him and his son watch it, so he wanted me to do this for his son, and he's like, make it as action-packed and as violent and everything as you can. So it was a fun sketch to do, and I really wanted to, you know, I definitely want to check this out. So I thought it might be on Hulu. I think it's on Cartoon Network, which I don't have, you know, cable or anything. So I went on Hulu and it wasn't available. I think eventually it probably will go to Hulu after, you know, maybe the second season. I don't know how many seasons there are. I think it's just in the first one. But I just heard rave stuff about it. It's just super brutal and everything. But anyway, so I did this, but that is definitely a show that I want to check out. So I'm looking forward to when I have time and when it comes to a service that I actually have that I can check that out. But again, he wanted a super violent, so I don't even know. I think he's bashing some kind of like a saber-toothed tiger or something like that, but it's so messed up you can't even really see it. The other one, like I said, was I did this Spider-Man comic. And now this was really interesting because this is something I had never heard about, but apparently, I don't know if it's the first Spider-Woman, but there was a Spider-Woman, a black Spider-Woman back in the 70s, I think 70s, must have been 70s, that I don't think she's canon, but I think she predates all the other Spider-Women, I think. But she's definitely, and I was wondering if she might have been the first black female superhero. And again, most people haven't heard of this. This is a Spider-Verse title. So, you know, Spider-Verse is all the different iterations of Spider-Man, and I'd never seen this particular character. Apparently, her name was, I think what was her name? Vanessa, no. Veronica, no. I forgot her name. It starts with a V, I think, but she was a librarian. And apparently, the reason why it's not canon, it was because it was based on, if you're old enough, you may remember there was a show called The Electric Company. It was like, just a little bit of history on that. Easy Reader, who was part of the Electric Company, was played by Morgan Freeman, and this is like when he was younger, one of his first roles, but that was sort of kind of how he got started as Easy Reader. But the Electric Company was this kids show, and it was an educational kids show. For me, it came on after Sesame Street. I watched Sesame Street, and the Electric Company, it would come on, and there'd be like, hey, you guys, and it wasn't like, and I assume Goonies just borrowed that because this was pre-Goonies. But so there was a segment in there with Spider-Man, and which also contained like the second best Spider-Man theme song. Everyone knows Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Everyone knows that one. But do you remember the one that was like, how did it go? Spider-Man, where are you coming from, Spider-Man? Nobody knows who you are. So anyway, I used to love that, but it was kind of, you know, it was a live action Spider-Man. He didn't say anything. It was all just word bubbles would pop up, and he was teaching a lesson. But then he'd spin a web, but it was just this net. They would just throw the net over the villain and everything. But apparently, this character, this first Spider-Woman, this black Spider-Woman, she somehow was, I got to do a little more research, but she was a spin-off of that. So they had an Electric Company, I think, version of Spider-Man in the comics. And what happened was something happened where Spider-Man left his costume, and this is a little where it gets murky because I have to look into it, but she found the Spider-Man costume and, you know, put it on, but I guess it was a little different. She had the web slingers and everything. Like I said, she was a librarian. She had the web slingers, but there was also something in the costume that had some sort of magnetic things where it was already built in the costume where she could climb walls because she doesn't really have any powers or anything. So anyway, she puts on the costume and she fights crime and everything, and later she meets with Spider-Man, and I guess they decide they could both be Spider-Man. You know, there's enough crime in the city that they could both do it. But again, from my understanding, only one appearance, but it was just one of those things that I had never heard about. And so I thought that was really cool. And again, any kind of comic history like that, I just had never heard about this. I watch, there's another channel, I might have to reach out to this guy because I reached out to him before. I'm trying to remember the name of his YouTube channel, but he does a lot of stuff on Black superheroes. And I'm curious if he knows about this particular one. So I might reach out to him and see, because he does a lot of content. I'd like to see him maybe do some research if he hasn't already, and done just a bit on this particular character, because I found it really interesting. But it was really fun to do this design. So I had a blast with it. And like, if you look it up, I'm trying to remember, I'm sure if you search first Black Spider-Woman, and I may be the only Black Spider-Woman for all I know, but again, premiered, must have been in the 70s. Did not predate, oh, what's her name? What's her name? I'm trying to remember her name. Well, of course there was Storm, but then, what was her name? I'm just drawing a blank. But was she part of the, I know she's part of kind of Daredevil's thing, or I'm trying to remember. She wasn't, or later she, I think, had superhero powers. I think she got like a robot arm, and I'm just totally blanking on that character's name. But she's appeared in, it was either Luke Cage, or it could have been, it was one of the Netflix shows she appeared in. And I'm just blanking on her name, but I think she may have been the first Black female superhero. And then shortly thereafter would have been Storm. But so it was just kind of cool to do this character, and just a character I'd never heard of before, and just perfect for this particular cover. So that was fun, and you'll see a little bit of me coloring it, but I forgot to record some of that, so you won't get to see all of that. But this was a fun sketch cover to do. And so anyway, these are there's 3 different sketch covers I did. I also did some remarks and things that I didn't record, because I have other tiers on the Kickstarter campaign where there are remarks to some people that have backed and got a remark. They came in and got their remarks. And if you're not familiar with remarks are, there's a backer level at, I think it's at like $55, where you can get a remark where it's just me drawing a sketch right on the cover of the comic. So anyway, that's another level, but here it is. All right, so that is a little bit of my experience doing this comic store signing, and what I tried to do to drum up support for the Kickstarter at live events. Didn't go exactly like I planned, but you never know. I mean, maybe with a little more, if there was a bigger audience there, or if I would have tried a few different things out, maybe it would have been a little more successful. But everything is worth trying out. You never know until you do it. So, and I'm one of those people that when it comes to something like a Kickstarter, any ideas you can get the word out and let people know, the better. So anyway, but let me know what you think. Have you ever tried to do this? Have you had any good results at a convention or something promoting your Kickstarter? Let me know. And like I said, this is the last week right now. Time is running out to back Young and the Dead on Kickstarter. So if you've ever got anything out of these videos that I do, if you've ever got any value from it and you want to get back and get something cool in return, definitely back Young and the Dead on Kickstarter. Go to youngandthedead.com, click on the link in the description of this video. Check out all the cool stuff there. There's remarks, there's variant covers, there's just a bunch of really cool rewards. So definitely check that out, and I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.